Sarah Berman is a puppeteer, voice actor, writer, and producer. In part 1 of our interview, we talk about her extensive work with the Aquarium of the Pacific and what it's like to create puppet characters based on real sea life. Welcome to the Swazzle Lunch Break. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. It's a gorgeous day, and as you can see, I'm joined by Millie the Possum, and she's also really excited to talk a little bit on the program today.
Oh, good. Yeah, Millie's been making some appearances on TikTok. Why don't you tell the folks a little bit about her?
Sure. Millie is a total trash cat, aka a possum, Virginia opossum that you would find anywhere in your local alleys or by your homes. And she's actually taken TikTok by storm. She had a viral video just reach 94,000 views, which was pretty exciting. So we're really happy.
I'd like to know, your career has been very interesting because you have this puppetry track and this aquarium track, and they both converge in an interesting way. I'd like to kind of find out how you got started doing the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So not in a conventional way, and this is always a really interesting thing. I don't think I decided I wanted to be a professional puppeteer until about like 7 years ago. I was doing just what a lot of folks are doing. I was working in retail at a little place. You might be familiar with it. It's just a mom and pop shop called Nordstrom. And I was working there in designer handbags, and as every day I was like going in and going out and just doing the day-to-day stuff. And I was always having all these ideas. I would see people come in and I was like, wow, that person is like a character, like that. I should write something about them or this or that. And then I saw this job posting that went up for the Aquarium of the Pacific in Long Beach, that they were kind of starting to do this puppetry program, and they were dipping their fins in, just trying to figure out how it would go. And I came on as just a summer job to be an eel. And it turned out that I had a knack for it. And I came in with a character voice that was kind of like this, and it was Bertrand the Eel. And the show ended up being really popular. So they wanted to expand the program. And Luke Richmond, who is the creative director and my boyfriend, he kind of, wrote, yeah, he wrote the show. And so they said, we want to expand the program. And I said, I've got all these ideas for characters. And we came up with Piper the Seahorse and Seymour Shark and all these other really lovable puppets that have sort of wormed their way into people's hearts. And it's just kind of grown from there and taken on a new life. So that led into working with you guys on creating characters. And I've had the pleasure in the last 7 years of working for Disney and Mattel and Swazzle and the Aquarium. And it just keeps coming. You manifest, if that's your destiny, go for it.
Can you tell everyone a little bit about the shows
Yeah.
that you get with the Aquarium? Because I know there's like kind of like character interactions kind of a thing, but then you have more like an actual show, like a sit down show. So kind of tell people a little bit about the educational programs and the shows you guys do over there.
So the Explorer Show was all about framing the experience of what it means to make observations. And that's really fun for guests coming in because we're not shoving science down their throat. It's just kind of a little taste of like, hey, by being here and making observations about animals, you are a scientist in a way as well. So the guests form these interactions with the characters sing, they tell jokes. It's very vaudevillian. When we wrote the show, we were very inspired by the original Muppet Show and kind of how they did that format. Axel has sort of taken on this Kermit-y type of role as being the MC of these wackier characters. And then, mind you, this was before COVID. We did walk around interactions, and that was my favorite. Yeah.
Interacting with guests must be a lot of fun. Yeah, I think that's one of your special skills too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It never ceases to amaze me. We went to do an event at the Skirball Center. They did the Puppetry Festival at the Skirball, and we got to perform there. And afterwards, we got to walk around with the Pacific Pals, and the kids don't see us when we're there with the character. It's like, it's all eyes on Piper, all eyes on Seymour. That was really awesome. And one kid who I remember, he came up to Seymour Shark and he said, Seymour, I have a lisp and I'm very, very shy. And you showed me that I can be fun and funny and loud. And Yeah, I went in the bathroom and cried. That was, I was like, this is amazing.
Why don't you tell everybody about the newest Pacific pal?
Oh, yes. Elsie, the sea otter. Elsie is not here. She's at the aquarium right now taking an otter nap. But Elsie was designed by Swazzle, Rachel Burson, and a lot of notes for me coming back and forth being difficult about what we wanted. Sometimes you don't know until the character, you play around and see different eye shapes. And one of my favorite things about Elsie, fortunately, I get to puppeteer her and get to voice her. She's a very scrappy little otter, and she just loves to eat food and shove it in her armpits and, teaching kids about endangered species. But the thing about her that was so amazing is you guys and Rachel, I said, I have this idea to have, her mouth plate and the middle finger can wiggle her nose. And you made it happen. And that is one of the things that I think we get the most compliments on with her.
Oh, that's good. Good.
Yeah, she's always
a little surprise, maybe that's unexpected. And so, sometimes even a little simple thing like that can really, make a character special or unique.
Before you worked at the aquarium, did you have an interest in sea life and oceanography or studying marine life? But was that something you had always been engaged in and interested in?
Yes, but always just as a passion. I didn't study, I went to college and studied marine bio just a little bit, and I found that there's way too much math and chemistry in there for me. It was pretty intensive on the chemistry side. So I kind of just did it for fun, really, just studying what I could. I've always had an interest in biology and in animals and knowing what eats what and the adaptations or the body parts and behaviors of different animals that help them survive. So that definitely played a big hand in that, and finding ways to really the biggest thing is now in the show, conveying the more heavier topics to people. We did a music video called I Love Abalone, which was a grant-funded project from NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association. So they gave the aquarium a grant to not only breed these very non-charismatic but endangered snails, but for us, the puppeteers and the puppet team of Pacific Pals, to create something that basically told people about what they are and why they're important. That was really fun.
Now, a lot of people ask us, how to get involved in puppetry, or how do they start a career in puppetry. I'm sort of interested to ask you about, starting out learning your own puppetry technique. Did you have any formal training? Is it you just kind of picked it up as you went along, or what was your path to becoming a professional puppeteer?
Practice, practice, practice. Yeah. If it's a hobby that you have, set up your monitor, have it in flip scan so that you know what it's like when you get on set and you're actually working with a monitor. And then also, I wish TikTok was around when I was getting started, and I was being a very curmudgeon-y millennial about getting on the platform. But now that I'm there and seeing all these puppeteers who are just kind of doing it for fun and actually watching them develop has been really cool. Having those interactions with people that you wouldn't normally connect with and creating original characters, that's how people really get started, I think, and just doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And you have the benefit of doing it in front of an audience. I mean, in years past, obviously things have changed, but that you could do it in front of an audience because you're getting that immediate feedback.
Right.
And I just feel like in some ways, puppeteers, when we started, we did shows for libraries, and you're doing, these shows at the aquarium, and especially the interactions with all of the guests. That is like almost like the equivalent of a comedian working out their routine, in working clubs. It's like the puppeteer equivalent to a stand-up comedian, basically.
I love that, and I've been very fortunate that no one threw tomatoes at me. That's it's fun, and you
or
also
fish for that matter.
Oh man, that would be rough.
The otter might enjoy that though.
Yeah. But you figure out also that's really fun when you get into making faces with the puppets too, making expressions. So we find that the one thing that got kids and adults every time, it's so silly. Anytime there's any kind of peekaboo with a puppet, people go nuts. Yeah, it's like if the puppet's up here and he's like, ah, and then he goes down here and he goes back up, people are like, ah.
We would always talk to, when we would train puppeteers for our live shows, we would talk about like you're playing with a cat and it's a cat toy. It's like, pull it up, almost like you're fishing. Yeah, it's the same reaction too. It's alive.
Yeah.
It's interesting, this your puppetry world and your aquarium world kind of converging. It must be kind of fun to look around the aquarium, and do you see characters in the animals that are there? Like, do you imagine them as being other characters and such?
All the time. I mean, there's over 13,000 animals that live there, so there's a lot to choose from. When we first got started, we really wanted to do the very uncharismatic animals that people don't always like or pay attention to. But we figured out, okay, you got to have your charismatic megafauna. You got to have your shark. You got to have your seahorse. And then along with that, you know, you can have your halibut. You know, you got to pepper it in. But there are a couple animals. If you look up wolf eel, everybody, that is a Muppet waiting to happen. A wolf eel, and an anglerfish,
And even I know the axolotl isn't native to Long Beach or even this area, but when we did the axolotl puppet, I mean, just Google axolotls. They look like
baby dragons or something.
Yeah,
like fantasy characters that live. Is there
any animal at the aquarium now that needs to be a puppet where you're like, oh man, I wish we could do a puppet out of this thing?
I don't know. Come on over. We'll take a look together. Yeah.
Let's make a penguin.
Actually, a penguin.
Or a puffin.
A puffin. I like that. A puffin.
Puffins always feel like the off-brand penguin. It's like someone tried to do a penguin and just sort of, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a puffin is like a penguin designed by a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
So like the Kirkland signature brand. Got it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Almost right. Yeah, almost right. If
you
people were to visit the aquarium now, can you talk a little bit about, you know, what's open? What experiences can people have? I just saw that the outdoor areas are open now, or what's going on at the aquarium now?
Yeah, so you can still support the aquarium and all your favorite animals by coming and visiting the outdoor areas. You can still see penguins, which are hilarious. You can pet sharks. You can go and visit the lorikeets, which are these colorful parrots. You can feed them. And then, you know, hopefully the Pacific Pals, we have a fun safety video there when you come in, and you could support us by watching the safety video and being safe.
Are the Pacific Pals currently at the aquarium, or but you can view them online? So I know you guys have a whole series of YouTube shows. What's that? How can people find it? Because they're pretty great.
Right now, the Pacific Pals aren't on site because we aren't doing any live shows just for COVID safety. But if you want to watch the show, you can tune into the Pacific Pals show on YouTube and Facebook and see those characters. And we're kind of starting, we're doing long form content, like 3 to 4 minutes, sort of fun educational classes, but we're starting to dip our toes into just more like campy short form content, because that seems to be the way people digest things these days.
Yeah.
And I thought, weren't you live with the aquarium yesterday doing a question and answer? Or because the aquarium is continuing to do outreach in this way as well. People tune into the Instagram or Facebook. I know periodically they say, hey, we're feeding penguins, and they'll just have live penguin feeding and things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Madeline, who does our social media, she does a really good job of creating TikTok content that is like really digestible. And then also we do the penguin feeding and the shark feeding. And that's really, really fun as well. Yesterday, we taught a class about penguins with Elsie. We're still working out the bugs. I did puppeteer for about 32 minutes straight with my arm up in the air. So, ladies, we can do it.
Join us next time for part 2 of our interview with Sarah Berman, where we talk about performing on Little Mermaid Live.